I'm Gab, he's Jules. Blue skies over West London. Jules, midweek Premier League football, not my favorite, but somebody took a big step towards the Premier League title, and it's Liverpool, I expect. We'll be getting that later because we're going to start somewhere else with an incredible game.
Yeah.
Barcelona against Atletico Madrid. Somehow this game finished 4-4. You know, like managers always talk about I don't even know if Pep started this, but everybody then copied him. But they're all like, well, we control the game, we control the midfield. Okay, there was no control in this game whatsoever. And I don't know. I kind of think, especially, this is on Hansi Flick. So to give you a sense, Barcelona start out, they go 2 goals down, they go 4-2 up, and then they concede twice in the last
5 minutes.
So from minute 84 onwards.
Yeah.
Can you explain?
Yeah, they went 2 goals down after 5 minutes. So they conceded basically 2 goals in the first 5 minutes of the game, and they conceded 2 goals in the last 5 minutes of the game, pretty much. And in between, they were still the better team, and they scored 4 goals. I mean, Griezmann could have scored at the start of the second half as well at some point, but Atleti didn't have too much either. Barcelona didn't play great. I thought they scored on set pieces, which is a bit unusual for them. They're not renowned as a team this season.
They also only scored on set pieces because Ferran Torres squandered a bunch of chances.
Yeah, he had 2 massive chances. You're right. But it was just a game of like not really being sure what would happen, and there was not much, like you said, control and logic to it really. But Barca was still 4-2 up, and at 4-2 up with 5 minutes to go, 10 minutes to go, you think, okay, they're going to see this game out. But as we've said many times on the show, this is a team that, led by Hansi Flick, that doesn't seem to think too much, right? During games?
I have to, I want to talk about Atletico, and of course the equalizer was scored by the only living Sorloth in captivity, which makes me happy, once again. But, like you said, it's a 2-legged tie.
Yeah.
You're 4-2 up. This is not the FA Cup. This is not like, let's keep attacking. Let's be irresponsible because even if they score, like it'll be 4-3 and we're through. Like, you don't know that you have no guarantees that you can lose by only 1 goal in the return leg.
Yeah.
So at 4-2, yes, add another if you can, but maintain some level of order.
Yeah.
The 4th goal especially, there is no excuse for that.
No, they're on literally the defensive line is on the halfway line. And you don't need to play such a high line at that time in the game, 92nd minute. You know exactly what this Atletico side is good at. And they did it to you in the league back in December, which is the last game that you lost, by the way, in all competitions, by scoring a very similar goal by the same player in Sorloth in the same manner. And yet you do it again and you make a mistake again.
Yeah, this is where I really, really struggle with Flick. And look, I'm not against taking risks. I'm not against attacking football. I'm not against the high line and the all-out press, although, as you know, I have my concerns about whether you can do this every game. However, this is not the time to do it. There is a risk-reward element to it. Scoring a 5th goal is less than the risk. Your reward for that is less than your benefit of, or less than the damage you cause when you concede in these circumstances.
Yeah.
He made some changes, which I understand because people need to rotate, including that 36-year-old center forward.
Yeah.
And this goes back to one of the eternal bugbears with this team, like Lewandowski with no backup. I have a lot of time for Ferran Torres.
Yeah, I don't.
You don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, he needs to finish those chances.
Yeah.
And I wonder if maybe, I know obviously Gavi's still working his way back, maybe to full fitness, blah, blah, blah. But maybe the play should have been, hindsight being always 20/20, maybe Dani Olmo should be your backup center forward if you're going to play like that.
Yeah, it could be an option, really. He started and didn't have the same impact, I thought, than when he obviously came on at the weekend in the league. But it's just a different story. It's a different game. I still think this Barca, it's what we said from the beginning. They can be anybody because they are that good with the ball.
Because
really.
Lamine Yamal is a cheat code.
But still,
there were
Rafinha
moments in that game.
Great. Rafinha is great. The midfield, if you take De Jong, Pedri, Gavi, Olmo, even Casado, this is good. This is great. But they can also, because of the, in a way, kamikaze style of football at times, like this stupid high line in the 92nd minute, they can also concede goals at any time. as we saw in the first 5 minutes, where they 2 goals down and not really understanding what happened, and late in the game, and until they have a bit more control, I just think they will be always that open.
Yeah, I really struggle with this, and we're going to break this down further on the Gab and Jules podcast. Jules, I want to branch this out a little bit on Barcelona, but actually, I think in a positive way, because there is so much to like about this. Jules Koundé got his 8th assist of the season, which I think is probably more assists than he's had in his entire career to date.
Yeah.
So again, and obviously assists can be a bit of a fugazi stat sometimes, but again, you give
These are
credit to
usually
Flick.
proper assists, though.
Exactly.
Yeah, these are usually proper.
And you give him credit. You give Flick credit for saying that. Okay, well, you're not just the center back playing right back and in our fake, back three, right?
Yeah.
So there's obviously a level of development there. Pedri playing in this deeper role, which he's done this year, which Pedri's obviously a phenomenally talented player. But again, his development, I think Pedri's probably with Alex Baena, maybe one of the player of the season candidates, and obviously that Lamine Yamal guy is pretty good. But you know what I'm saying? Like if you were to say like player of the season candidates in Spain, it would probably be out of that group.
Short list,
Well, maybe a couple others. So and then of course how quickly he implemented his system, working with the Zoo and Laporta and this and that. But at the same time, I don't understand the lack of adjustments. And I spoke to somebody in general about this, and they pointed out that Barcelona are either likely to win very close games or to go and run up the score because they score and the other team is to come forward and they punish them. And there's a lot to be said for coming from 2 goals down. And so, again, I have to point to Cholo now. You let a 2-goal lead slip. When we had the old stereotype of El Cholo Simeone, not that long ago, this was unthinkable, right? Because the garra and the growling and Diego Godin punching his head and Diego Costa going and beating people up and, all this stuff. But does Diego Simeone look back on this and say, you know what? Yeah, it's great we scored at the end, but I am furious that we let that 2-goal sleep. And maybe I shouldn't have been playing Pablo Barrios, for example.
No. So I think we talked about this before. When you score 2 goals like this so early on, I think he messes up your whole game plan because it is completely unexpected. You prepare for your game and you want to win and you prepare to obviously try to go and win the game, but to be 2 goals up with 3 or 5 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes in, I think it's completely unexpected. So then you have to adjust, and I'm not sure if the players who are obviously very good and very experienced for some of them can just switch it on from whatever the plan at the start was. Let's say a medium block to start with, just for the sake of it, to then go for hang on, how come we're 2-0 up now? What do we do now? Do we just go and park the bus and defend that? Do we keep attacking because clearly Barca were under pressure? And to be fair, the first Ferran Torres chance is after 12 minutes. And watching that game, I felt that Atletico wanted to go and score a 3rd goal and left a lot of space on that chance for Torres, who was one-on-one with Musso and has to score, really. So they could have parked the bus straight away after 6 minutes. 2 goal up, perfect. Let's do what we are capable of doing. Let's just defend, have 25% of the ball. We don't really care because we are good enough to do that. So I really believe that they were a little bit in between. Okay, what do we do now? How do we readjust? How do we set up, especially? And then in the end, until the 53rd minute, I think, and the Griezmann chance, they don't really do much. They don't seem to know exactly what to do.
Well, but that's kind of my point. First of all, I don't have a problem with them saying, right, the best way to defend our 2-0 lead is to go and try to score a 3rd. Like that's fine.
Yeah.
This is the new Cholo 2.0. It's a tactic that I think generally works. Teams are set up to defend, especially to just say like, oh yeah, come and lay siege to our goal for 80 minutes. Usually regret it, right? That said, Barcelona only really play one way, right? Certainly, after 10 minutes, they're going to play the same way at 2-0 down than they would have done at 0-0.
Yeah.
So I don't know that you need to make an adjustment at that stage. You just need to execute.
Different if you're in the lead than if you're behind or if it's 0-0.
But
Even
why?
if they play the same.
But you know what's going to happen.
But you're not going to play the same, though, if you're in the lead or if it's 0-0.
After 10 minutes, I would say, yes, please play the same.
But then it clearly cost them because Barcelona started creating chances very quickly after Atletico got that 2-0 lead, the 2-goal lead.
I don't know if that's the reason. I think it's more, I don't know. I just think, I mean, that's kind of my question. Was it a case of Barcelona being that good and Rafinha and Lamine Yamal especially? I thought there were moments, maybe he didn't end up on the score sheet. I think he had 1 assist, right?
Yeah, the third goal, yeah.
But you just realize when he gets the ball, people freak out. And I'm like, but you knew he's going to be in the game. Even if it was 0-0, you knew it. You can't be freaking out. And when you've got veterans like Lenglet, like Jimenez out there on the pitch, and you are this battle-hardened team, you should maybe do a better job of handling it. And I'm pretty sure Simeone is going to be...
Yeah, but
Simeone is going to be very angry.
He starts Gallagher on the left-hand side for Yamal. He starts there
100%.
To help Galan with Lamine more than Samuel Lino, for example, or somebody like that. So you could understand that, but then when you're 2-0 up, I don't think you ask the same of a Gallagher simply because you're in the lead than maybe if you were 0-0, because Gallagher and he's running forward, for example, not that he's a forward, but could also have an impact on what Lamine has to do defensively, for example, in a way. So I just thought it was a really good, almost tactical battle without the tactical battle, but still within the tactical battle, because the game was so crazy from 2-0 up to Atletico to 3-2 half time. Then they could have come back maybe the start of second half, then 4-2, and you think, okay, this game is over. To obviously the super subs from Cholo and the last 5 minutes of the game.
You mentioned the scoring on the set pieces before. Is there anything to read into that? I mean, other than the fact that there was probably a foul on Marcos Llorente on one of them.
Yeah, they were not happy, when they. Did you see Oblak saying to the fourth referee, like, clearly he's grabbing him instead of just screening him.
But is there anything to read into that? I mean, I don't think so. I think this is one game where actually it doesn't mean anything that Barcelona scored on those. Barcelona can score on those, but Barcelona created a whole bunch of other chances.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. No, I don't think so. It's just, I guess, good for them in variation of the kind of goal they can score, really.
What gets me, I want to go back to Sorloth. I don't know what his goals per minutes are. Alvarez, we need to start calling him the Spider, by the way. That's been decreed.
Okay.
He's up to 20 on the season, which is obviously a ton. But is there a different use of Sorloth? Is this the ideal use of Sorloth, sending him on at the end?
I think in some games it is, because if you look at I guess the Alvarez goal, which is a pure number 9 goal, far post on a corner, flick at the near post, I think Sorloth or another number 9 could have scored that. If you look at the ball that Alvarez gives Griezmann on the second goal, Sorloth can't do that. Sorloth can't do the running that in a game overall I think Alvarez does in terms of pressing intensity, all that kind of stuff, because this is Alvarez's game. But I think if Sorloth comes on against a team, especially of the level of Barcelona or Real Madrid, who have been a bit tired already, and you bring him for the last 20 minutes...
Yeah. It's the old psychological thing
true,
of the big man comes off the bench, right? Going back to the days of Peter Crouch. And it's still a thing. It shouldn't be a thing. And I agree with you. This is why I was asking. Because part of me says, what if he mixed and matched a little more? What if, rather than saying Alvarez and Griezmann are starters, some game, I'm going to mix and match my strikers more, which he did for a period.
Before. Yeah. At the start of the season, he kept changing.
That didn't quite work out. Now it's those two, and then, I just wonder if it's easier to prepare when those two guys are going to come off the bench, and the other two guys are going to start. That's my one thing. If you wanted to...
It's so effective though, Gab. I would not change the Correa, Solo, super sub, combo and plan, because it's been working and if you add Lino, who gives an assist on the third goal, then you imagine your 3 sub having such a decisive and effective impact on a game of this caliber. It's huge to have, and I'm not sure I would change that sort of like power force coming off the bench compared to what they could bring maybe. And maybe you start them and they do well, of course, because they're good players. And maybe Griezmann can bring something off the bench or Alvarez. But right now he's working so well that because Solo said after the game, I knew I would come on and score. He said, and maybe there was a little bit of, I don't know, like trolling Barcelona, maybe. But also I think that if you know this is your job, right now, it might change, but right now for Correa and Solot especially, because Lino could be a starter in some games, this is your job to come off. Maybe your mindset is just different to a starter, to the way Griezmann and Alvarez approach a game and prepare for a game. This is your job to come on. You have 20 minutes, 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes if you're lucky. And maybe your motivation and mindset is different. And now they're in that kind of mode. It would be hard to switch it back to, hey, you're a starter now, change that mindset kind of thing.
What I find really interesting is that people have talked about, how deep Atletico Madrid's squad is. I think the squad is deep because he changes things so much or has done at different times in the season. And because if you don't see these players play, then we don't know. When I think a couple years ago at Manchester City, when he was chopping and changing, but it was always the same 14, 15 guys. But, number 17 was Cole Palmer. We didn't know he was any good because we never got to see him, right?
Yeah.
I find it really interesting that almost this kind of different approach. We're two of the teams that are doing the best in Europe this season, Atletico Madrid and Inter. Inter even more so than Atletico Madrid. Always use their 5 subs. They will make changes. They will tailor to the opposition continuously. Whereas, some of the other teams are doing well this year, like Liverpool, it's one obvious example. I think Real Madrid are difficult to judge because it's more by necessity. But Barcelona, I think, certainly, there's very little rotation for the big games. I guess what you lose in chemistry, but there's an argument to be made. I think it's going to be more of a debate, especially as some clubs, like Arsenal or indeed Real Madrid, where injuries did pile up for a period.
Maybe,
people are going to say, hey, do we need to think in terms of, not starting 11, but kind of starting 16, if you will?
Yeah, maybe that's the way forward. But they have a good squad. When you looked at the bench, even on Tuesday night, you thought, okay, this is good. And I watched Griezmann again, and I have to talk about him just before we finish on this segment, because I tweeted as well during that first, after his goal, which I thought was a phenomenal goal for his age, to have to run half of even almost the whole length of the pitch, and then still sits down Balde, who is much quicker, much younger than him. And I said, can we please talk to him out of international retirement? Because I think in that kind of form, he's unbelievable. We said he's going to go to MLS probably this summer coming. So there's not much more to enjoy in Europe from Antoine Griezmann. So let's make sure we do, because I think he's phenomenal.
Is there really a chance he could?
I decided this summer or the following one.
No. I'm talking about international retirement.
Oh, no, it's not.
There's no chance. All right. Okay.
I wish it.